Hey, it's another Friday, and that means another podcast from the Zogbys. John, here I am, and Jer, there he is, and you know the rules of engagement. We often disagree, sometimes agree, but we always do it in a very healthy and civil manner. And so, exciting news: we have a brand new poll out today, a new national poll. And just to set the table, because Jeremy's going to talk about it, he led it and conducted it, and is going to show it and analyze it. But we have always liked to go beyond the simple, who would you vote for, and who's leading, the typical horse race kind of stuff. And we know that the country is polarized, and we know that there are strong, deep feelings on both sides, all sides. Our effort is really to just come to grips with and understand both sides, rather than labels. Oh, the other side is stupid, or the other side is part of a conspiracy. We want to really get into the heart and soul of people, what they believe in, why they believe what they do. And so, Jer, I'm going to turn it over to you. You have a whole bunch of Zogby-like issues questions that we uniquely ask. And so why don't you pick it up from here? What did we do? What was the poll of, and who did you poll? And then you'll start showing stuff on the screen.
Yeah, so we have a nationwide poll of likely voters. The poll ran October 5th into the field, and we finished October 5th. So this is brand new data, the most up-to-date. Keeping in line with Real and Unscripted, I've only looked at the data set once. I haven't written a report yet. Actually, after this, going through it and basically analyzing it on the spot, I will then later on write something, and then we'll release it over the weekend. So if you're on our list, our email list, you will get the analysis. But what we're going to do here is a little treat. We're going to show you how we read polls. We're going to show you the data. Most people see the data in the article or in the press release. This is what the pollsters and the analysts look at. This is that type of data. And so I'm going to go through it slow because there's a lot of numbers. But first, I'm going to share my screen and walk you through how to read a poll. So
there we go.
See that? All right. So I'm probably going to have to be moving these boxes around, or at least adjust it. Let me try that. There we go. All right. So first off, 1,006 voters. That is a margin of error, a plus or minus 3.2 percentage points. So most of these are issues polls, as my dad said, and then we're going to build up to the congressional generic ballot. So first, I wanted to know is, where do Americans stand on transgenderism and transsexuality? And so I just came up with a very basic statement A versus B, one of which said right here, the increased awareness and media exposure of transgender and transsexual people has gone too far, versus B, it has necessarily advanced our awareness of an important issue. Two completely believable and accurate sides. The first one, the increased awareness, has gone too far, gets the plurality. Right here, the overall 49% of Americans, this column is overall, versus 35% of overall American likely voters who say it has necessarily increased. Let's look at a couple demographics. Let's look at party. Among Democrats, a slight majority think it has necessarily advanced our awareness. 33% of Democrats who think it's gone too far. Contrast that with Republicans, 71%, kind of no surprise of that intensity. 71% of Republican likely voters say it has gone too far. 18% say it has advanced the awareness. By the way, if you're listening to this on SoundCloud, you might want to check out the YouTube video by going to our website, www.johnzogbystrategies.com. On the podcast button, you can find the video. Let's look at the young. I think the young is going to be very telling. We're going to go with this breakdown of age groups. 18 to 29, they are dead even. I'm fascinated by that. 40% who say it's gone too far, 43% who say it is necessary in increasing our awareness. And of course, the dynamic is going to be, as you get a little bit older, you're going to see that fall a little bit. And so from 30 plus, actually it holds pretty steady. About a third of those 30 and older believe that it is necessary, but 48% of those older than 65 say it has gone too far. I'm going to go on to the next question.
I'd like you to back up for a moment, though.
Sure.
Because this is critical. If you back up to race, I would take special note that among independents, an even split. And we're going to see that a lot, that independents fall in the middle on a lot of these issues, controversial issues. But if we look at race, where did it go?
I'll get there, right there.
Okay. You see that both Hispanics and Blacks have a majority and a plurality who feel that the issue has gone too far. Now, regardless of what I agree with or disagree with, these have implications in party politics. Democrats often being charged with being a party of interest groups and not a holistic party that attempts a common worldview. In this instance, two key groups disagree with what the party stands for on the issue of transgender rights, and that could be problematic for the party. Okay.
Absolutely. And sorry, I just don't feel that I could cover all of the major demographics. So I'm just going to, pick and choose with the limited time we have here. Next here is Ukraine. I mean, Ukraine is huge. It's about as, not as intense as COVID was, but maybe arguably so, especially in these last couple weeks. So I want to know, what do Americans think about the 70 billion that has gone there? Now, somebody could flag this question. I'm going to read it. Regarding Ukraine receiving over $70 billion in military aid from the U.S. government funded by taxpayers. Now, someone could say that's, that's a loaded question. Well, the reality is it is funded by taxpayers. That's a fact. But in the A and the B, we give credence to it, to that fact, where statement A says it is for a righteous cause, which many people believe, versus B, it is causing more harm by putting Americans in danger, which is a very big sentiment. So again, overall, look, Americans are split. 44%, a little bit more, say that is for a righteous cause, all of that money going to aid Ukraine militarily. Yet 38% say it's actually putting us more in danger, leaving about a fifth who are unsure. The party breakdown is very telling. We'll go straight to the independents. Same dynamic. They're dead split. 40% of independent voters saying it's for the righteous cause. 38% saying it's putting us in danger. More Republicans, a considerable more larger number of Republicans, 47% say it's putting us in danger. 35% saying it's for the righteous cause. The flip side with the Democrats, 54%, more than half saying righteous cause. Third of Democrats. Now, we've seen that twice now. A third of Democrats, 29% saying it's it's putting us in danger. I think on this one, I'm also going to go to age, and I'm going to skip race just for time. What about with age? Younger people, now I would have thought younger people would have thought it was for a righteous cause. I don't know why I would have thought that, but I did. But 51% say it is causing more harm. A third of 18 to 29-year-olds say it's for the righteous cause. Let's contrast that by the oldest group, the 65 plus, who are flipped. 56% say it's for the righteous cause. 29% say it is harming the people. So what we can see here is that the older Americans are upholding the notion of, hey, we've got to help these people abroad, whereas the younger are saying, no, actually, we're concerned that this could create a huge international crisis that will come back and hurt Americans. Moving on. Nord Stream. Okay, so I had to ask this question because there's a lot. I think there needs to be more coverage. I'm actually shocked that I'm seeing a little bit less coverage, but for those who don't know, Nord Stream 1 and 2, the pipelines from Russia going through Northern Europe, through the Baltic Sea, were bombed. And there are folks who were saying it was Russia, and there are folks who were saying, no, it was NATO, more specifically US. And actually some legitimate voices such as Jeffrey Sachs, who is a very influential economist and global leader from America, Columbia University professor, believes the United States was behind it. That aside, I'm just going to do the overall on this one. Basically, statement A is that, Putin is out of control. He blew it up to get revenge against Europeans. Statement B says it makes no sense that Russia would do this. That is their asset. Why a billions of dollar asset that creates revenue and is geopolitical leverage over the Europeans? It makes no sense he'd blow it up. Not surprisingly, more Americans think that it was Putin and the Kremlin, 47%, but 27% who think it makes no sense that the Russians would do it. Of course, a quarter are just not sure. You'd have to really dive into the geopolitics on this one. How about inflation? This I think is getting at the heart of what the Federal Reserve should do, or what could happen either way. And this question basically says, statement A, eventually, like in every other economic downturn, in order for our economy to recover, Americans for a period of time will have to learn with less easily accessible credit. Essentially, we're going to have to go through some rough times before everything recalibrates and reorders itself to go back towards a recovery. Versus statement B, the Federal Reserve needs to do everything it can to keep supplying more easily available credit at low interest rates. In other words, keep it coming, don't halt that engine. 47%, the plurality, sided with statement A that this is going to have to slow down, and we're going to have to go through a rough period before we can rebuild, versus 32% who say don't stop the engine, keep the easily accessible low interest rate credit going. I think that's a fascinating view into where our psychology is headed. And you can see here both Democrats and Republicans and independents are largely, for the most part, in agreement that the easily accessible credit is going to have to disappear, and we're going to have to learn to live with less for a period of time in order to reposition the economy to get better. In other words, clean out the misallocation of bad capital lending and projects. Unless you're not opposed, Dad, I'm just going to stick to the overall in the party in the interest of time here.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, here's a big issue: crime. What's the perception of crime? Is this a Republican thing that they're blowing it out of proportion? Is it really a major issue? In how voters are going to go to the polls? Well, there's really only two easy ways to boil it down, and that's how I do it here in statement A versus B. A says there may be a wave of crime, but it's definitely not extraordinary. Versus B that says this recent crime wave is unlike anything I've seen before. Well, only 38%, not only 38% of voters overall thought that there may be a wave, but this isn't really anything, different. Versus almost half who say this is unlike anything I've seen. Democrats are more likely to think, with 46% saying that it's not extraordinary, but 39% think it's unlike anything they've seen. 62% of Republicans think it's unlike anything they've seen. 27% of Republicans think that it's not extraordinary. And then once again, the independents are almost evenly divided. But you go back to the overall, and almost half of voters think that this wave of crime is like anything they've seen. That of course is, does that mean in terms of frequency or the bogus, bold types of crimes? It's probably both. I would like to see race on this one. I think that's going to be very telling. So again, keeping in mind that A we'll just say it's not extraordinary. B, it's unlike anything I've seen. 51% of white voters are saying it's unlike anything they've seen, compared to 37% who say it's not extraordinary. 51% of Hispanics say it's unlike anything they've seen, versus 40% who say it's not extraordinary. And 41% of African Americans say it's unlike anything they've seen, versus 38% who say it's not. I think the trend is clear that even among the two biggest minority groups, Hispanics and African Americans, a large percentage think that this wave of crime is never before seen. And so that is a pretty good indicator that crime is going to be a major issue. Of course, we know that in the questions we ask among what are the top issues. Crime is usually in third or fourth place as far as most important issue to voters. Moving along here, abortion. Okay, I like the way that I frame this one, because when we ask about how important is abortion, is it a top issue? We never really know what side we're getting at, but here we're going to look at it, how Democrats see it and how Republicans and independents. So statement A says this is among the top 3 issues facing America today. Statement B says abortion's important, but it's not a top 3 issue. And so 48% of American voters are saying it's a top 3 issue. 38% are saying it's important, but it's not top 3. Of course, Democrats overwhelmingly, 66% say it is top 3, versus 22% who say it's important, but not top 3. On the flip side, Republicans, 57% say it's important, but not top 3. Almost a third, 30%, say it is among the top 3. And then for independents are a little bit more towards the Democrats and saying it is top 3. 49, almost half of independent voters say it is top 3. 37% say it's important, but not top 3. I'm going to let you chime in because I've been talking a lot.
So the key here is that abortion is an issue, and it's potentially, as we're seeing so far, a game-changing issue. So those numbers among independents are intriguing, but let's look right next to it. Just follow the line right there and see that among liberals, 79% say that it is among the top 3 issues, compared to 25% of conservatives who say it's a top issue. This is a real concern among Republicans that rural voters, conservative voters, may not be showing up in great numbers next month, simply because with the Supreme Court decision, the Dodd case overthrowing Roe v. Wade, that conservatives don't feel like they have an incentive or need to vote anymore. I want to look also at men and women on this issue, if you can find
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. In between though, while we're on urban versus rural, I'm just going to show this dynamic for whatever it means. Those who live in either a big city or a small city, 54% say it's top three for city dwellers. On the flip side, going to rural, 48% say it's not a top three. And so there's that, there's that little bit more intensity coming from the urban. And on the flip side, almost as many rural saying it's not, if that sheds any light on what you said. But you want to go to gender. Here we go, male, female.
Okay, and you see then that 10 points, that it is more a top three issue. And the concern is that we can't tell from this poll until we do a specific set of crosstabs, but there's a fear that Republican women and independent women may tip Democrat this time on this issue alone. Remains to be seen. Crime is clearly a major issue, and crime is an issue among, just backing up, among blacks and Hispanics. It's in the top three issues. Will that force some blacks and Hispanics to either stay home or to actually vote Republican? And the same thing now with the abortion issue and women. Some evidence here that it could be helping the Democrats.
And so this is pure speculation because, as you said, we'd have to generate special crosstabs. But I can't help but think that among the female voters, the 33%, so as you pointed out, 53% of women, well, I would think it would be higher, but 53% of women say it's a top three issue. 33, a third of women say it's not. Something tells me that those women tend to be independent and Republican. And that is dragging, that intensity down a little bit. When you talk to people, they say, oh, well, women are driving to the polls. You almost get the sense like the vast majority of women are driving to the polls over this issue. Yet and I'm not saying that 53% is low. I'm just saying that that number doesn't match the perception of when you talk to people who think that women in droves drive to the polls over this issue. Again, I would have thought the intensity would be greater. So what I'm deducing from this is that these 33% of women who are saying it's not a top three issue, I think are coming from the Republican and largely the Republican and independent voters. But new data would prove that right or wrong.
So quickly, two things. One is there are going to be women who certainly have inflation on their mind and crime on their mind and education for their kids on their mind. So that's one issue. The other thing is, as we go along, let's look at male, female on other issues. And I'm going to suggest that possibly we're going to see evidence that 53% of the, say, abortions in the top three issues documents that more women care about it than care about other issues. So let's go on.
So the southern border. Another thing, what's the story on that? Is this just typical Republican fear, or is there actually a concern among a broadband coalition of voters? And so one statement will say, I'm uncomfortable with the call for greater security at the southern border, which would mean, I think that's a lot of fear mongering, versus statement B that says, I'm concerned about the lack of security at the southern border. And so 54% of overall voters are concerned about the lack of security at the southern border. That's the perception. 28% are uncomfortable by the notion of greater security. Trump-like talk, like let's put, more people down there, maybe even build a wall or whatever. that's a little more extreme. Let's go to party. 42% are uncomfortable or dislike the idea of, this is Democrats, 42% of Democrats. 31% of Democrats are concerned about it, the lack of security. Republicans, 78%, I think that's very telling. That's that intensity factor. 78% are concerned about the lack of security. Independent voters, 52% are concerned about the lack of security versus 25% who dislike the idea of more security. I'm going to go to race and then to gender. Among whites, 60% of white voters are concerned about the lack of security. 24% don't like the idea of more security. Looking at Hispanics, it's dead split. 41% of Hispanics are concerned about the lack of security. 39% of Hispanics don't like the idea. The same thing with black voters. 37% of their split. Black voters, 37% are concerned about the lack of security. 35% are uncomfortable or dislike the idea. So, to your point of women versus men, 56% of men are concerned about it. 52% of women are concerned about the lack of security at their border.
It's another issue.
Another top issue. So, and by the way, we're getting very close to the. Everybody wants to know what we're going to show on the who's going to take Congress. We're almost there. Okay, this one. I took the question. I see a lot of other pollsters doing the top issue question and giving like 10 issues and saying, well, what are your top 3 or 2? And recently, and Dad, you kind of brought this to my attention. Recently, more and more pollsters are including the very survival of our democracy. Well, I didn't want to do it like everybody else is doing it and put it among the top issues. I wanted to do something different. And so I took that theme of the survival of our democracy and I did it like this. I put it statement A versus B. Statement A, my opposing political party threatens the very existence of our democratic way of life. Versus B, our two-party system is creating instability and pitting Americans against each other. To me, that's the real debate. That's what I want to know. In other words, are we heading towards a civil war, or are more people saying, you know what? It's not really that party, it's the damn system. So, excuse me while I move this sidebar here. Okay, while I leave you in suspense. This blew me away. 46% of American voters said it's our two-party system that's creating instability and pitting us against each other. Only less than a third of voters, 32%, said it's those other people that are threatening our democracy. So 22% are unsure, but clearly more Americans feel the very nature of our politics is what's creating the problem, and less of them believe that it's that other team. It's team red or team blue. Let's look at party. Wow, Democrats are dead split. 39% of Democrats say no, it's those Republicans. They're threatening our way of democracy, our way of life. 39% of Democrats are saying it's our two-party system. That is a red flag, and I'll expand on that. Republicans about split. But clearly more intensity, not as split as Democrats, but 33% of Republicans, almost as many as Democrats, say it's the other team, but yet 48% of Republicans are saying, no, it's our two-party system. I don't know about you, but that gives me hope. Independents, 54% of independents saying It's the two-party system. Not surprising coming from the independents who don't have a home in a party and have basically formed their informal third party by being on the fence and saying, I'm going to figure out which one I'm going to vote for on either on election day or leading up to it. But wow, nobody has got to the heart of this. And this is why I created this question, because lo and behold, according to American consensus, it's not the other guy or other lady, it's the damn system. And so I'll let you chime in.
Well, I'm intrigued what I see next to party: liberals, moderates, and conservatives, all with either a majority or plurality. Particularly intrigued by the moderates, which is, you can see another number to look is down at the bottom of the column. The actual number of people who responded, 369, right, are that's the largest group. So it is moderates who are a majority, particularly worried about the two-party system. I'm curious. I would like to go down to age and race.
Okay.
Not the 24th. Okay. So what you see is, if there's any ounce of loyalty at look at 65 plus.
Yeah.
And then also the whites versus Hispanics, and blacks. Remember, blacks are normally 90% Democratic vote, and we're not seeing that 90% anymore. I don't know how they will ultimately vote, or if they really will vote in great numbers. But here I'm seeing that only 31% blame the other party, 43% blame both parties, 26% are not sure. That's not a vote of confidence.
No.
In the two-party system.
No. Oh, go ahead.
No, I said these are good questions.
Yeah. I mean, what this tells me is, and this isn't a prediction, there is a bubbling possibility of a trend, we can say, for that trend to grow, that's going to say we need to revamp the whole thing because this ain't working. And you see it among Hispanics, you see it among white, you see it among black, young people especially. Like you said, only those 65 plus, but even they're split on it. But there's the highest sense of loyalty to a party comes from those 65 plus, which is no surprise. But yeah, we're going to keep this one. We're going to track that one over time. Something tells me that could be powerful. So I think, okay, we've arrived here in November. Do you plan to vote for the Democratic or the Republican candidate for Congress in your district? Hey, 39.8% of voters say they're going to vote Democratic. 39.6% of Republicans say they're going to vote. 39% of voters say they're going to vote Democrat. 39% say they're going to vote Republican. 16% are not sure. We're in a absolutely perfect dead tie of a race. Go to party because it's telling. Where's that intensity? 82% of Democrats say they're voting for the Democrat. That's a little low. 84% of Republicans say they're going to vote for the Republican. Also a little low. Those are supposed to be closer to the 90%. And then independents, 30% say they're going to go Democrat. 27% say they're going to go Republican. Remember, there's a 3.2 plus or minus margin of error. This whole thing is a complete toss-up.
32% of independents are not sure. That's why we don't make election predictions in early October. Those numbers can go either way, and you're going to have actually billions of dollars being spent on the campaign now in the closing month.
Yep. So
let's look at race for a second. Let's look at race on that question. And
Yeah.
What we see is a trend that we've been seeing among Hispanics. Generally, Hispanics have been voting 2/3 Democrat. And here we are, we're seeing the same number we've been seeing all year of almost an even split, or a larger percentage anyway, of Hispanics voting Republican. Blacks, that is not great news for Democrats from this poll. Now, we got a higher margin of error, but that's 64% Democrat and 18% Republican. Is not a healthy number for Democrats, nor is that 14% undecided, simply because in my history of viewing, if you've got a larger than normal undecided among Black voters, they're not going to vote. That's a real red flag.
Of course, as we know, it's really going to come down to 5 states, and we haven't yet had the opportunity to drill into those 5 states because, right, I mean, I wouldn't say the overall numbers are meaningless. They portend to where the direction is going, where there is intensity, where there isn't intensity, but I think we would have a better idea of projecting, although I still think if we looked at those 5 states, I have every reason to believe we would see similar numbers by, more or less. But the big takeaway here that I see from everything that we've reviewed, you overall you see more sentiment going towards what would be a conservative, more or less a conservative or Republican narrative, but there's no Republican lead, which means there's Trump fatigue. But at the same time, the Democrats are not in the lead on the congressional generic ballot question. So it goes back to the question before about which comes closer to their view regarding the system. Is it the other party or is it the whole system? We hear a lot in the media, Trump fatigue. I think it's really two-party system fatigue. This two-party system fatigue, there is just not the excitement that you typically see. Yet at the same time, we know that the 2022 midterm election is at least being projected as an Armageddon election, but we're not seeing this enthusiasm among voters. So I think, going back to what I keep saying, it's not just Trump fatigue. That is true. It's a two-party system fatigue. This particular two-party system, not the history of the two-party system. The two-party system in the year 2022 is not very exciting for voters and does not give them a lot of confidence.
Okay. All right. So there you got to reveal some important questions about how voters really feel and internalize the issues. Good report. And thanks very much. And until next week, have a great week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We'll be closer and closer. So have a good weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.